Hello everyone, Mrs. Fandra here, and today we're going to be talking about culture. And the reason we talk about culture in art is because the way art is made really depends on your culture. And what is culture? That is a great question. It's a really, really big idea that we're still talking and learning more and more about every day, every year. We learn more and more. And a culture is simply put a group of people that do things a certain way. All right. So that can be things like their traditions and things that they do based on what it is on the calendar or where the sun is in the sky. So traditions like holidays and things important to their country and culture. Art, which is why we're talking about culture right now. Social behaviors, which is how you interact with people. So maybe in America, it's a common thing to shake someone's hand when you say hello, but in other cultures, that could be like insulting, like, why are you showing me your hand? Weird. So things that are normal to us in our culture might be different to other people in their culture and how you interact with people. All right. Clothing can be very different, especially even in the United States. If we're living in Wisconsin, we might have big coats and warm things because we know it gets cold here. But then people in Florida, maybe they don't even own a coat because they don't need it. So their clothing depends on their culture. And like I said, culture depends on where you live. And just because we live in the United States, does that mean we all have the same culture? No. Depends on where we live, where we are, who we grew up with. Depends on a lot of things, right? Architecture, the way you build buildings makes a big deal, right? So if you live in a place with a lot of people, you're going to build buildings really, really tall probably. Or if you live in an area with not a lot of people, maybe you have a really big area to spread out, okay? Language and writing really depends on where you grow up, because we learn a lot of English, most people in the United States growing up. But if you come from a different place or you have a different culture, you might be learning lots of other languages, all right? Maybe it's common if you're over in Europe to learn 3 or 4 different languages. So that's part of your culture. Religion and what you believe also plays into culture and why people do things the way they do. And the type of foods, right? If you go travel the world, you'll see lots of different types of food, and that's because that's what's in that area to grow. So maybe in Wisconsin, we have a lot of cheese curds and brats because that's what we're known for. But if you go to trying to think of another place off the top of my head. If you would go to maybe India, you'd have more curries with sauces and vegetables and something with lots of spices and seasonings. So these are all things that make people unique, and that is their culture. And the big point I want to get across here is that just looking at this map, there are so many different types of cultures. And even though the United States is one color with Western culture, there are so many different cultures mixed into that. I'd say even in our city, we have different cultures mixed in, right? And it's across the world. There are so many, 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 many cultures. Some are similar, some are very different. And what I want you to know is that if someone's culture is different than yours, if they do something different, they wear something different, they talk differently, does that mean that they're wrong or that they're bad people? I hope you think the answer is no, because it's okay to be different. It's what makes you special. If everyone across the world did everything the exact same way, it'd be kind of a boring place to live, in my opinion. So this idea of culture is good. It's okay to be different. It's okay if things look strange and to embrace those ideas, right? So for our project today, now that I'm through this little bitty, our project today is going to be kind of up to you. In class, we're going to be doing some coloring sheets with different styles of clothing from across the world that people are going to be able to color and decorate and kind of see, oh, it might look different if I live here, if I wear this. So we're going to be doing some coloring in class for this project. But if you want to, if there's a culture that seems very interesting to you, it could be anywhere from somewhere in the United States to over the oceans. If you can pick anywhere and make a project based off of that. The one thing that I want to ask is if you're doing a project based on another culture, it's important to kind of be respectful of that culture and try to do your best work on it, because we're learning culture through art sometimes, and it's not always nice if people make art using weird things. So my example for that is if you wanted to, for example, if you were looking at Native American art here in the United States and you make something using like a toilet paper roll, does that seem like a respectful thing to use to make something that's sacred to these Native people? Probably not. So For this project, I think it's great to color and draw and do your best work quality-wise that way. But if you start putting other mediums in or different supplies in, try to remember, like, this is serious for people. Like, this is who people are. And if you're kind of making fun of them, is that the kind of thing to do? No, I'm sure you wouldn't like it if people would make something from our culture and it looked like they made it out of something they just found on the floor. I don't know. So I'm really interested to see what you come up with. If you have questions or you want to like bounce some ideas off of me, if you're like, oh, how could I try doing this? I would be happy to have a chat with you. All right. So I'm always an email or phone call away. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know. Otherwise, when you're done creating your cultural creation, please take a photo and upload it so I can see it. Can't wait to see what you come up with. Happy creating!